Hitting hard with Jon Chuckery, back with you on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Don't forget, head over to YouTube. We want you to find Locked On Sports Atlanta there, and we want you to subscribe. Give us a review. Tell us what you think. If you have some comments about the show, leave them there. And, of course, you can follow me on my Twitter page. It's at JMCH316. Want to give you a stat about a draft from a few years ago. This is from the 2017, right? You with me? 5 years ago. So in the NFL, what happens in 5 years with a draft class? Well, your first round pick is on his 5th-year option. So he's in the final year of his deal. He's in his 5th-year option, and you're ready to sign him long-term. Your other draft picks are in a situation where they're in the first year of their second contract. Now, I know not everybody does it, but you understand what I'm saying, the theoretical about how this works in the NFL. Listen to these numbers from the 2017 draft. Ready? 30 Pro Bowlers, 15 All-Pros, 14 multi-time Pro Bowlers, 2 Offensive Players of the Year, 1 Defensive Player of the Year, 1 MVP. That's from the 2017 draft. Now, you want to know why the Falcons are in the state that they're in? You want to know why the Falcons have a bunch of money and it doesn't mean a whole lot? Let me read you of all those great players in the 2017 NFL draft. Let me read you the 2017 draft for the Atlanta Falcons. Takk McKinley in the first round. Duke Riley in the third round. Sean Harlow in the fourth round. DeMonte Casey in the fifth. Brian Hill in the fifth round. And Eric Sobert in the fifth round. Now, what do those 6 players have in common? Is there any MVPs? Is there any Defensive Players of the Year? Is there any Offensive Players of the Year? Is there any Pro Bowlers? Is there any All-Pros? Are there any 2-time or more Pro Bowlers out there? Nope. What they have in common is not a single solitary guy from that draft is on the Falcons roster. And not because they balled out and they did so well. Takk McKinley is barely hanging on in the NFL. Duke Riley, gone. Sean Harlow has played 2 years in the NFL. DeMonte Casey, bouncing around. Brian Hill, just about out of the league. Eric Sobert, probably making French fries right about now. You want to know why the Atlanta Falcons are in the state that they're in. When you draft like that, in a draft where there's MVPs, Players of the Year, Pro Bowlers, All-Pro, blah, 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 and you draft a bunch of ham and egger bums that not a single guy got a second contract, not a single guy made a Pro Bowl, not a single guy is a All-Pro, not a single guy is worth giving a second contract to. That's why you're in the state that you're in. Oh, with Matt Ryan's contract and all that. It's so stupid. This team is where it's at, not because of Matt Ryan, not because of their contract, not because you can't play with a $46 million quarterback on your roster, because everybody, look at the average annual value of the contracts for quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Rodgers is over $50 million. Deshaun Watson's 46. Mahomes is 45. Derek Carr is 40. Stafford's 40. This guy's 40. 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. When you draft Takk McKinley, Duke Riley, Sean Harlow, DeMonte Casey, Brian Hill, and Eric Sobert, you have no chance in the NFL. You can't build not because you have a $46 million quarterback. It's because you drafted all of these ham and eggers. Now, let's make it even worse. Here's the 2018 NFL draft that the Falcons have. Calvin Ridley, who won't be a part of the team this year and probably will end up being traded. Isaiah Oliver, who did sign back with the team for 1 year and $1.25 million as a second-round pick. Deidre Sanat, gone. Ito Smith, gone. Russell Gage, gone. Foye Olakun, gone. So you have one guy in 2 drafts that's going to be on your roster for this year. Think about that. 12 guys in 2 years, and one guy is playing for you this year. Not from a decade ago, not from 15 years ago. One guy out of 12 draft picks in the last in those 2 years from 4 and 5 years ago is on your roster today. And Ridley has a shot to be on the roster next year. The general manager already said that they tried to openly trade him. How are you going to win in the NFL when that's how you draft? And that's why when I hear the whole, oh, Matt Ryan's contract was hamstringing him. No, it's when you don't draft worth of crap, an entire draft loaded with Pro Bowlers, it reminds me of the 07 draft, right? Go back to 2007. That was Rich McKay's last draft. We've talked before about the most disastrous year in Falcons history was the 2007 season. Mike's in Leavenworth prison. Bobby Petrino leaves. It just was a disaster, on and on and on and on. Well, Rich McKay that year drafted Jamal Anderson, not the running back, but the defensive end out of Arkansas, who barely played football before he got to college and literally had one of the least productive rookie campaigns I've ever seen in my entire life. In a draft, by the way, where there's all these potential Hall of Famers. Marshawn Lynch was in that draft. Darrelle Revis was in that draft. Patrick Willis was that. Go look through that draft and look at all of the guys that the Falcons never got their hands on. You want to know why the Falcons are in the shape that they're in and why they have, we've got all this cap space. Yeah, because nobody has been good enough to get a second contract to play for your team. Nobody's been good enough to get that kind of money from you. I mean, when I look at the Falcons draft in 2017, which is supposed to be really the core of your team right now, when everybody's in their fifth year and you're putting your fifth year option on your first round pick, a couple of your guys are going to sign long term with you. You have nobody on your roster from just a handful of years ago, from a time when your core should be being put together, and these are the guys that you move forward with. And that's why this idea of, it'll just be a year or two. Okay. Are you telling me that they're going to draft that much better this year? Because that's the thing I keep seeing is everybody's like, well, if we have a really good draft here and a really good draft. Okay, when's the last time we had a really good draft with multiple regimes? When? 2008? I know a lot of people have faith in Terry Fontenot, and I'm going to have faith in Terry Fontenot, through this draft. But if this draft doesn't produce, I don't want to hear about starters. I don't want to hear about, we got some starters. No. You have to start drafting high caliber, Pro Bowl, All Pro types of players. Okay? You need to go find your Micah Parsons, Defensive Rookie of the Year, first team All Pro. Okay? You need to go find your Tristan Wirfs, first team All Rookie, second year he's first team All Pro. But when you have a draft where you have 6 guys that aren't even on your team anymore, in a draft that was so loaded with players and has so many Pro Bowlers and everything else to it, you're not going to win in the NFL. And that has nothing to do with Matt Ryan's contract, has nothing to do with what kind of cap space he takes up. It has everything to do with your evaluation of players and how much it stinks and what little you've gotten out of all of them. All right, when we come back, I hate to say, but this whole Freddie Freeman thing last night was so far overdone that it completely turned me off to the idea of Freddie Freeman and watching him for the Dodgers and everything like that. I'll explain all that next. It is Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.